Hi, this is Ziemovid about history, and today I will tell you about the best kings Europe had in medieval times. I chose 11 of them. I thought I will make a list of 10, but I could not cut this 11th one. So let's get into it. The 11th place I put Hakon the Old, King of Norway. He was a very good king because he ended almost 1 century long civil war in Norwegia, and as he managed to stabilize situation in his country, he started to expand both geographically and economically. Hakon was considered old because he was reigning for 40 years and he died being 59. So as for medieval standards, it was quite decent age. But the same situation as in Norway was in Iceland. Iceland Vikings were also fighting among themselves for decades, and as they saw that Norway finally has a good king who can stabilize the country, they asked him to take Iceland under his banner. And he agreed, so he expanded Norway all the way to Iceland and even to Greenland. It is 13th century, so Greenland and Iceland are quite habitable. It's the end of medieval warm period. What's more, when in Germany started a great period without a king in 1250, they even thought that maybe Hakon the Old will come and become a German king and then Holy Roman Emperor. It would unite Germanic states all over Europe, but finally they wanted someone else. But this shows how Hakon was recognized and his prestige was very big in 13th century Europe. Number 10. Vladislav Jagiello. It's a Lithuanian prince who, being very young, in his 20s, was invited to Polish throne, and as he took the Polish crown, he was one of the best Polish kings. He was reigning for 40 years. His wise and a bit cunning politics made our country very prosperous, and his main achievement that we remember for eternity is winning with Teutons in the Battle of Grunwald in 1410. He was able to unite all Polish knights, and also he had very strong Lithuanian reinforcements, and also he had some few thousand of Mongol reinforcements, and with this great army he was able to defeat great Germanic army under Grunwald. And after this battle, the supremacy of Teutonic Order in Baltic Basin was starting to decline, and it was very important turning point in Polish history. Not only Polish, but for Poland it was the most vital thing. Władysław Jagiello established Jagiellonian dynasty. This dynasty will rule Europe for another 100 years, Central Europe. They will rule in Poland, in Lithuania, and in Hungary, and in Czechs. Number 9. Canute the Great. Canute the Great was, I think, the biggest leader of 11th century because he was able to unite various northern countries, and he was the true king in the north, because in 1016 he was king of England. Then 2 years later he was able to take Danish crown after his brother passed away, and a few years later he also managed to take Norwegian crown after Olaf the Saint, and also he expanded his influence over Sweden. So he created this great united northern kingdom where trade was the vital blood of this whole state. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to rule very long. He died in 1035, so his kingdom very quickly collapsed. But in fact, Canute the Great was one of the most important leaders in 11th century European history. Next great European king, in my opinion, was Henry II Plantagenet, King of England. He was the father of famous Richard the Lionheart, but in fact Richard would not be so successful if not his father Henry, because Henry established a solid fundament under his expansion. Richard was very good steward. He was taking care of his kingdom and he introduced common law, something that gave England a sense of stability. Because before that, as you may know from history, England was constantly raided and the ruling elite was changing, and the last change was when the Wilhelm the Conqueror won under Hastings. But Henry Plantagenet was the one who introduced a new kind of courts, the courts that were very innovative in this period of time. This court was not sitting in one place and judging and being influenced and being corrupted by local nobles, but these judges were traveling around the country from county to county, from castle to castle, and where they did their justice. So they were not corrupted and they were very objective. It was a very big upgrade in justice system in England. So the people now see that the law, this common law that Henry Plantagenet introduced, is really some good thing, and they can hold on something, not just on the brutal force of a nobleman or his knights. Number 7 is Otto I, Otto the Great, King of Germany in the middle of 10th century. Germany in the middle of 10th century was a very chaotic state because a lot of dukes were thinking they are the most important in their kingdom, and for example Bavaria, Saxony, Swabia, Frisia, Thuringia, these were all provinces thinking they are the most important parts of the kingdom. So ruling them was very, very hard. And also it was a time when Magyars were invading Europe every single year. Big raids from Hungarian plain took place and they reached even Spain. So you can imagine how terrified Europe was in the middle of 10th century. But Otto was the first German leader who put end to this great Magyar invasion. He stopped them in 955 on the battle on the Lachfeld, and as he won with his greatest enemy, the Hungarians, he marched north, and he was also able the same year to win against Slavic tribes living between Waba River and Odra River. So he scored 2 great victories, and it opened him a way for being an emperor. He marched south through the Alps, he conquered Lombardy, and as young Pope John XII asked him for help, he eagerly came to Rome, and for his help he was crowned the Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And it was the start of the first German Reich. It was year 962. So Otto the Great is one of the biggest rulers of medieval Europe. But we have still some bigger ones ahead, so stay tuned. In 1330, in the great battle under Velbuch in Balkans, Serbian army was able to crush both Bulgarians and their Byzantine allies. But after this battle, Serbian king don't wanted to pursue and even conquer Constantinople. He stopped his troops and started negotiations. And Serbian aristocracy, with the prince Stefan as a head of them, was very upset with the situation. Few months later, they captured the king, they put him into the tower, and soon after he was dead. And the new king arose, Stefan IV the Dushan. And he continued this imperial Serbian politic, and he expanded his territory greatly. He conquered Macedonia, present Albania, Western Bulgaria, some parts of former Byzantine Empire, and he created Serbian Empire. He was crowned as an emperor of Slavs and Greeks, and he wanted to reconstruct Byzantine Empire but under Serbian rule. He wanted to mix Latin law, Greek culture, Slavic Serbian traditions, and also Orthodox Christianity. But not only his conquests were vital for Serbian strength, he also supported economy. He rebuilt a lot of mines, silver and tin mines that were present on this territory, and they were abandoned since the antiquity. And now he revitalized them and started to gain a lot of income, especially from silver mines. But unfortunately, after his death, Serbia collapsed, and as you know, Turks were able to conquer Serbian territory. Number 5, João John the Good, King of Portugal. He was a bastard and he was not supposed to take the crown, but as his half-brother died, he was the only one to take the crown of Portugal. So he did in 1385, and Castilians, their neighbors from the east, saw it as a great opportunity to conquer Portugal. And in fact, Portugal looks weak. It was not a big country, not so strong as Castilla, and with no strong leader, because John was just a few months as a king of Portugal. So they invaded Portugal, but João I, with help of English archers and knights, was able to defeat Castilians twice and therefore to defend the Kingdom of Portugal. So we can see almost the same borders between Portugal and Castilla today as they established them in 14th century. As he was not able to expand east for obvious reason, he focused on seafaring expeditions, and he established the basics for the great Portugal colonial empire that will come in next century, because they started to explore, they started to expand their economy, their trade routes, and with his wife from England, he created one of the greatest seafaring leaders of medieval times, Henry the Sailor. He was his son and he was very important for Portugal expansion. João was blessed with long reign. He was reigning almost 50 years, so it was very good time for Portugal, time of prosperity and growth. On the fourth position, I see Polish king Kazimir the Great. He was a leader in 14th century and he inherited very weak state after his father, who was struggling to unite Poland and to create one united kingdom again after the 150 years of division. Casimir inherited united but very small and weak kingdom, and he was pushed from both sides, from the south, where John de Luxembourg was eager to take Polish crown, and from the north, when Teutons were also very eager to take Polish lands in the north. So he was in clash, and his wise rule for 37 years gave us, the Polish, not only territorial expansion, but most important, very strong economic growth. This economic growth will allow us to win under Grunwald a few decades later. Casimir conquered eastern provinces, Halic, Rus, because dynasty there collapsed, and therefore with the help of Hungarians he was able to take great territories in the east. Also, he was able to avoid strong clash, military clash with both Teutons and John de Luxembourg. So he established peace in his lands, and what's more, he was great builder. He built 50 castles, and also he built walls around 27 cities. So he fortified his kingdom very well. And what's more, he established first Polish university and first university of this part of Europe, Jagiellonian University in Krakow. But the Jagiellonian University was established in fact by Casimir the Great in 1364. I'm proud to be the one who graduated from this university many years ago. So Casimir was a great Polish king, and now in 1071, under fortress Mazikert, Byzantine forces were destroyed by the Seljuk Turks, and this was the beginning of new era when the Turks will try to conquer Asia Minor, and the Byzantine will desperately try to defend their core territories. And in this situation, when the empire was very weak, and when from the west Roger Guiscard from Sicily, Viking, was trying to conquer Byzantine territories in Balkans, new emperor arose, Alexei I from Komnen dynasty. He took the power violently. He dethroned Nicephor III and took the power from himself, but it was very good from the empire. He was able to both defeat the Vikings in the west and to defend territories in the east against the Turks. Alexei was a great reformator who rebuilt the bureaucratic structure of the empire to be sure that he will have enough money to support his army that he badly needed. And he started a new dynasty, the Komnen dynasty, which will be a very good attempt in Byzantine history to rebuild its greatness. And for the next 100 years, Byzantium will have its renaissance, time of revitalization, time when they will try to rebuild their strength, and the time when they will be able to hold on the Turks in the east. But after this dynasty, as you know, Byzantine Empire will almost collapse. But this is another story for another video. And now, second place. Matthias Corvinus, Hungarian king in the late 15th century, was the first national king of Hungary after the end of Arpad dynasty in the beginning of 14th century. Matthias Corvinus became a king because his father, Jan Hunyadi, was a great warrior who was able, for example, to stop Turks under Belgrade in 1456, and his glory was passed to his son, and they agreed that Hungarian noblemen will lead them as a king. And Matthias was a very good ruler for Hungary. He was fighting in the south with the Turks. He was fighting in the north and the west with Czechs, and he conquered a lot of territories in Czechs, and also he conquered Silesia, which was before then under Czech rule. He also won with Habsburgs, and he conquered Vienna, and he established his capital in Vienna. But the only place where he was unable to win was Moldavia. In Moldavia there was a fierce warrior, Stefan the Great, and he was able to win with all his neighbors. He won with Turks, he won with Polish army, and he also won with Hungarians. But nevertheless, Matthias the Corvinus was able to achieve all these goals because he set economy first. He was able to maintain very big income from his big territories, and from this money he created famous Black Army, almost 30,000 men, dressed almost the same, very well trained, and it was not an army of noble knights as we can see in all European states. When the king was calling the knights for help, they were fighting. If they won, if they don't, they go home, and so on. It was stable, paid from the king's treasury army, and they were always on the disposal of the king. So it was very important reform in Hungary. So Matthias Corvinus on the second place, and on the first place, of course, you can see no one else than Charles the Magn, or Charles the Great, the ruler of France, in fact, but in this time it was not called France, it was more like Frankish Empire, because he conquered a lot of territories from the northern Spain to the borders of present-day Denmark, to the present-day Hungary, because he conquered Avars and he established his borders, eastern borders around present-day Vienna. He also crushed Longobards in Lombardia in Italy, and in year 800 he became emperor of Roman Empire. He wanted to recreate the Roman Empire, and in fact he was the closest of all Roman Empire rebuilders in history. He was closest because he was able to unite the most territories of former Roman Empire. But not only his military achievements were impressive, he's also responsible for very important cultural revitalization in these dark ages. Even come up with a new type of writing, the Carolinian minuscule. It was a new type of writing, more easy to write and more easy to read. And they were rewriting a lot of ancient books, and thanks to them we now know a lot of Roman books, because the Carolinian monks were able to rewrite them and preserve for next generations. Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad you listened to my story about the best kings of medieval Europe. Tell me, what do you think? Do you think I missed someone, or someone should not be on his place? Tell me in comments. Thank you for watching and see you in next movie.